Hey y'all, I'm Jenny.
And I'm Shell. Welcome to Two Amp Queens podcast,
where we will discuss true crime, paranormal, our daily lives,
and whatever else keeps us up at night.
If you like what you hear and want to show us some love, click the link down below to help us continue and bring you new podcasts each week.
Other ways you can support us are by subscribing, liking, and sharing where you can. It's a free way you can help us out.
You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. We are Two Amp Queens across all formats.
And here we go.
What's up, everybody? So today we're going to talk about the mysterious disappearance of the Jamison family. So here we go. October 8th, 2009, Bobby Jamison, 44, Sherilyn Jamison, 40, and 6-year-old Madison Stormy Star Jamison from Eufaula, Oklahoma, took a little trip to an area of the Samboy Mountains, or the Samboy, I don't know how to pronounce, I know I'm not pronouncing it right, Samboy, maybe, mountain range called Red Oak. That's a part of the Ouachita Mountains in northeastern, is it northeastern? No, it's southeastern Oklahoma. They were apparently looking to purchase 40 acres of land in that area where they planned to live in a shipping container that they already owned and was on their lakefront property in Eufaula. So they already had this shipping container. They were looking for the 40, and this is back in 2009. That wasn't like a huge thing back then. Now
it was just starting.
Now it's people are doing it all over. I mean, check YouTube. They're all over. People have like refurbished these big shipping containers into these magical looking homes, and they're amazing
everywhere.
So, but back in 2009, that was a little bit weird to people. So bear that in mind. According to the family, it was normal for them not to hear from Bobby and Sherilyn for several days, so they weren't officially reported missing until October 16, 2009. A search involving 400 volunteers, horses, mules, ATVs, 16 teams of cadaver dogs, and an unmarked drone was launched. Cadaver dogs tracked to a water tower that they subsequently drained, revealing no sign of the family. Their truck was found in Latimer County, which was about an hour away from their home, and was in good condition, and inside was a severely malnourished Maisie, the family dog. Along with their dog, other items were found, including Bobby and Sherilyn's cell phones, wallets, Sherilyn's purse, along with a GPS, maps, and $32,000 cash was in the truck. It was under the driver's seat. The truck was in good condition, and there was no sign of that an accident had occurred. Family and friends were shocked to learn of the $32,000 in the truck, since Bobby and Sherilyn were both on disability at the time of their disappearance. Bobby was in an accident in 2003 and suffered from chronic back pain, while Sherilyn was diagnosed bipolar, and it's noted she was not good at taking her bipolar medicine. Their family believed they were having financial difficulties, but they lived in a $300,000 lakefront home. They owned 2 timeshares in Mexico and several others across the United States, certainly well above what disability could afford. 4 years later, the partial skeletal remains of 2 adults and 1 child were found by hunters 3 miles from the Jamison truck. They were found on November 16, 2013. In July of 2014, would bring confirmation that these remains belonged to the Jamison family, although no cause of death could be determined. It's said that Bobby's skull had a hole in the back of it, but speculation remains on that. Some say it's from an animal, others say it's a bullet hole. The hunters actually thought it was a bullet hole, but the medical examiner said no cause of death could be determined. So that's the story of the Jamison family, and it we could get way more. I could go down several rabbit holes here, but I kind of want to stay on track of what actually happened. So that's what actually happened.
Yeah.
So now let's go down the rabbit holes. Let's go down and talk about some of the theories. And there are, you guys, so many theories of what happened to these people. This is mom, dad, and their daughter.
Yes.
She was only 6 years old. Just disappeared. And nobody knew where they were, and nobody could find them. They couldn't find the remains. 3 miles away from their truck is where they were found. Ultimately, 4 years later, you're telling me that 400 volunteers
missed
a drone, cadaver dogs,
missed all this.
Missed them being 4 miles away
Right.
or 3 miles away.
Right.
That to me
Right.
is insane.
It
doesn't make any sense.
No, it's
at
completely.
all.
It's completely. I've watched shows on this particular case. They have a recording of the parents loading their vehicle before they went.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. So let's talk.
To not find them.
Yeah.
Completely asinine. That's ridiculous. They weren't there.
Okay, so let's expand on what you just started to get into. So the first theory is that their disappearance was the result of a meth deal gone wrong. There's a lot of speculation that they were involved in drugs. They were meth addicts.
Yes.
They were dealing, all of that stuff. And so there's a lot of speculation about that. There is a video of the Jamisons' home. They had, and we'll get into why they had security cameras in the next theory, but the first theory is that they were on drugs. So and I'm going to tell you right now, they were on drugs.
Yes.
Hands down, they were on drugs. Were they on meth? I don't know.
No.
But I'm telling you, someone with chronic pain, he was taking something for that. So that's guaranteed, hands down. He had chronic back pain from a car accident. And I guarantee you, I'm a chronic pain sufferer. My sister's a chronic pain sufferer. It is.
You can't function without something.
Yeah, you have to have something.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily enough for me, I have what's called a spinal cord stimulator for my phantom pain, and that is giving me really good results. And I am on drugs, although it's not a painkiller; it's a neuropathy drug, which is really helping. But I see a pain management doctor all the time. It is debilitating to have chronic pain.
Yes.
Because there are days where you're perfectly fine and nothing is going on, and you feel great. And it's a complete, chronic pain is a complete yo-yo.
Yes.
It 100% is a yo-yo because you're always up and down.
Absolutely. And I'll say this, it makes sense to me that people thought they were doing something other than that, because a lot of people like myself with chronic pain, I can manage my pain, but on a scale of 1 to 10, I live at an 8, even with pain medication. So for people to go, well, he had chronic pain, so he must have been on something because he was fine. He seemed fine, which is what a lot of people said, that he didn't seem like he was hurt. I can slap some makeup on, put a smile on my face, and nobody knows I have anything wrong with me.
You learn to live
Right.
Like
So
90% of the time, my husband doesn't even know that I'm in pain.
Exactly.
But I'm in pain 100% of the time.
Unless you physically say something. So I can understand where the family thought, but I've seen pictures of Bobby and Sherilyn before they disappeared.
Right.
They don't look
They
like
don't
people
appear to be meth addicts.
to be on meth. We live in Oklahoma, people. We know what meth looks like, okay?
And
So-
Eufaula is a big area
Yes.
for, it has a big
Yes.
problem with meth.
But they
in
did
the
not
area, or did
look,
at the time at least. I don't know if they still do.
to me, and I don't know them personally, I'm just saying, maybe they look different to the family, but to me, they looked just normal.
Yeah.
Like,
Now, granted, Bobby was very lean. He was very thin, but he was not emaciated.
right.
And, he didn't have the typical meth look.
Right.
And do be aware that they had no, there was no evidence of drug use in their home when their home was searched after their disappearance. There was nothing found.
None.
No, not even the slightest little bit of
paraphernalia, no nothing.
Stealing, doing anything like that. But in this video, it's very, very weird because Bobby and Sherilyn were going back and forth. They were making multiple trips, probably about 20 trips or so, back and forth from their truck to the house, taking things from the house to the truck. Then, on the video, they take that very same thing back to the house that they just brought to the truck. So it's very, very weird. And they're doing it in a manner where they're not communicating at all. They're not even acknowledging each other. They are in a trance-like state. It is actually very freaky to watch.
It is.
And you can watch that if you just type in Jamison Family video. You can find that anywhere on the net. It'll bring that video up and take a look at it. And that video alone would lead me to believe that they had both taken something.
Right.
It is noted that Sherilyn is bipolar, so she should have been on bipolar medicine. But she was not good at managing her bipolar disorder. She's not good at taking her medicine, according to family and friends.
But not bad enough to where they didn't have Madison.
Right.
Madison looked fine. She looked like she was healthy, normal.
She was well taken care of. They adored their daughter. They lived for their daughter. So they were everyone says about them that they were very good parents.
Yes.
They wouldn't do anything to harm Madison or lose her or put her in danger. So, but they also in this video they changed clothes several times too.
Yes.
Which is very weird. It's just very, very weird. There's also, I just want to make a quick note. There was a briefcase that on the video was loaded into the truck that they never found.
Yes.
It was never seen again. They didn't find it in the truck. They didn't find it when they were searching for them. It wasn't in the house. It is gone, and it has never been found. No. So
and no trace of it at all.
No trace of it. So. It's never been located. So the large sum, and I also have a theory with this about the large sum of money because that ties into the drug deal.
Yeah.
They think it was a drug deal gone wrong, and that's why they had this $32,000 in the truck. And if they're having financial difficulty, how would they have $32,000?
Even family members said that they had no clue why they had that much money or how they even came about that much money. Now, one thing that's always baffled me is if it was a drug deal gone wrong, why did the drug dealer leave the money?
Right.
My first thing would have been like, I kill you, I take your money, I take the drugs, I'm good, you're gone.
And if they're the dealers.
Exactly. They know they have money on them.
Why are they gone?
Exactly.
And not the person they were doing the deal with.
But whoever they were meeting had to have known that they had that much cash on them. Why didn't they take the cash? Because they said they were meeting somebody to talk about a land deal.
Right. And so it wasn't like it was deeply hidden in the trunk. It was under the driver's seat. Yeah. It wasn't that hard to find.
But they left other things that were
there were
wallets with money in it,
and none of that was
money in it. So
their cell phones, all that stuff. So
and then the dog was left in the truck. People are scum. Okay, I'm just going to plug. I worked in animal rescue, so people are scum when it comes to animals. But not very many people would just leave a dog in a truck to die. Okay, it takes a special kind of, pardon me, dumbass to do that. So that's what baffled me, that maybe they were just getting out for a few seconds and something happened.
And Madison adored that dog.
Yes, she would go nowhere without that dog.
So that dog, her leaving that dog behind, though, I don't think they would have done that willingly, honestly.
I don't know.
And if you're concerned about what happened to the dog was severely malnourished when they found it, which, remember, let's piece together the time frame. They left on October 8th.
Still hot here in Oklahoma.
And the weather was decent. It wasn't like super great. It wasn't super cold. It was decent weather. It was probably needed a jacket, I would assume.
Yeah.
There wasn't any rain or snowfall or anything like that. So the dog was malnourished. But so October 8th, they found the truck on the 17th of October.
Yeah.
It was found by someone was riding an ATV in that area and found the truck, I believe. And that's when they found the dog. So 8 days, it was severely malnourished, but it was fine. It ended up being fine. And they were able to, get it back to health and get it some food and water and all that good stuff. And the dog was fine.
Yeah,
so if you're concerned about that, the dog ended up being fine. So.
They did say that had it been a day or two later, then she wouldn't have made it.
Right.
But she did make it, and I don't know. It doesn't really say what happened to her after that. I'm assuming either family or she was adopted.
I mean, I would assume that family had the dog, ended up taking the dog. So, okay. So the next theory. Oh, my theory about the money.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Bobby was in a car accident like in 2003.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
So this is 2009. At some point, he got on disability. Now, I will tell you from experience, disability, it can sometimes take a long time, especially in something like back injuries, stuff like that. Unless it's like, okay, you have a back injury and you're paralyzed, but like back injuries that are like would come out of a car accident and stuff, a lot of times those are hard. You have to fight those with disability to get on disability for that. I mean, let's just break this down. I lost my leg. I don't have a left leg. From above the knee down, I don't have a leg. And it took me over 2 years to get on disability.
So that would have been about right. 3 years would have been about right for a settlement.
Right.
Maybe he got a lump sum at first.
And they said he didn't get, like, it wasn't from like a settlement from his auto accident, although there was litigation going on with that. There was no settlement yet. But when you file for disability, it goes back to when you became disabled.
Yes.
So it's not when you file, it's when you became disabled. So I became disabled in 2017, in June actually of 2017, although I didn't lose my leg until August.
Right.
And I got my disability after getting an attorney. I got my disability over a year later. So they had to pay me back to June of 2017.
Yeah.
So I did get a lump sum. So my theory is if it took him, I mean, and my lump sum was a pretty decent lump sum, honestly.
Right.
So if it took them
3 years.
even longer to get disability, $32,000 wouldn't be out of the possibility. So it's possible that was a disability settlement, a disability check that he got from back pay disability. It's possible that it's from Cheryl Lynn getting back paid disability. It's a possibility that could be a combination of that.
Exactly.
So theory that they were struggling financially, I don't understand that because they lived in a really nice lakefront home.
Yeah.
A $300,000 lakefront home.
Right.
They had timeshares that they owned. They had nice vehicles.
Yeah.
Their homes had the latest appliances, the most up-to-date amenities, all of that stuff. It was a nice house. They had newer vehicles, so I don't see the financial struggle. I really don't.
No.
Even being on disability. But that also leads into the drug dealing because how were they affording all that if they only had disability income?
And it's not unusual for, and people think, well, their family would have known. No, not necessarily.
Right.
Their family would not have known why they had that much money. Because if you're not close, which there are some instances that say they were not close with most of their family. Right. Especially, I believe, his father, they had a falling out with him. So it's not uncommon for your family not to know that you have money. You can hide that from your family, especially if they're not on you all the time.
Right. If they weren't like super close or anything. I do know at one point Carolyn's mom did live with them.
Yes.
I don't know how long she lived with them, but I mean, I just don't see the financial struggle. Is what I don't see. It doesn't seem odd to me that they would have $32,000.
Out to the family, maybe, because I mean, these could have been people that knew he was coming into a settlement, and they were always arguing about borrowing money, and they just stopped telling people. People are like that.
Yeah.
You know, you're the one that got hurt. They know you got a big financial gain coming, and they're like, "Oh, when you get your money, can you?" No, I have back things I have to pay.
Yeah,
for,
exactly.
So we have plans for that. So.
Okay, so leading into that, we briefly mentioned there was some, kind of a falling out with Bobby's father, Bobby Sr.
Yeah.
So the next theory is that they were murdered.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of speculation. There was actually even a protective order filed against Bobby Sr.
Yes.
There was a lot of falling out. Bobby Jr. worked for him for free under the agreement that he was going to get property and ownership of the store that his dad owned. So there he several times allegedly said, "I'll kill you and your whole family."
In front of people.
In front of,
like
there were
people
witnesses that would say
that. Yeah.
So there was a lot of bad blood there. But Bobby Sr. was 67 years old at the time of Bobby and Sherilyn and Madison's disappearance. He lived in a care facility, and he actually died 2 months after their disappearance, or 3 months after their disappearance. Yes. They disappeared in October. He died in December of 2009.
And the care facility said that he never
was not in like good health. I don't
No,
imagine if he
was
passed that quickly.
And
here's the other thing. Although he said that, there's a lot of talk of him leaving everything to Madison. Like that was like there were vehicles that he had signed over to Madison,
and that's where it gets
all that stuff. So I don't see that he might say that, and I can see in a moment of anger saying, "I'm going to kill you and your whole family," that kind of stuff. And there were some, when it comes to money, there can be some heated arguments about that.
Yeah.
So I don't doubt that there was some bad blood there for sure, but I don't believe this theory is one that I just don't. I don't feel like it holds any water.
I have a hard time believing that he would kill his granddaughter.
Yeah,
your kids. I get it, but I have a hard time believing that. Knowing that she was going to be with them, because they went nowhere without her.
Right.
She was always with them. So knowing that your own granddaughter is going to be there, I mean, not really. And the man died 2 months afterwards.
Yeah.
And he was, by everything that I've read, they said that he was heartbroken over this. That he really felt bad because they couldn't find him. And then he dies with no closure.
They had left on bad terms.
Yeah. So those are articles that I've read. Now, there's a possibility that there's like some people that are related to these people because we are in Oklahoma. If you have another theory or you think, correct us, because there's so much going around. We want to put the truth out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of crazy theories about what went on with this family. And
I mean, there are so many. It's like tentacles. They go in every direction.
Yes. But at the end of the day, you got to remember this was somebody's family, and they came up missing and then came up dead.
It's very sad.
And they don't know what happened. It's extremely sad.
This is probably one of the coldest cases there is. There's
nowhere for them to go. They have nowhere to start with. They started with the truck, and they thought they had it going by then. But then when the bodies turned up, it went in a completely different direction. And now they have because where were they?
Right. Why didn't someone find them?
Exactly.
And the theory on that is that they were covered by leaves or whatever.
There's no way a cadaver dog would walk over that.
I don't think would miss that.
No, not these dogs are. I used to work next to a dog training facility, and they trained cadaver dogs there. She would bring stuff over, hide it in our piles of telephone poles, and anybody that knows what a telephone pole is covered in this goopy, almost like sappy tar material that does melt when the sun's out. she would hide this in there. And tar is a very strong scent.
Yeah.
These dogs were trained to find these things, and it was a tiny, maybe anywhere from a baseball size to a golf ball size animal, stuffed animal that had the scent on it for them to find. And these dogs would find it every time. And that's how they passed their test. Them doing that at our facility was their test. So a cadaver dog is not going to walk over a pile of leaves with a body under it and be like,
not just one body, but three
bodies. And be like,
So,
they are trained to detect the scent of death within hours.
and you're talking if they disappeared on the 8th, if they disappeared the day they went out to this area, if they disappeared that day, which there's a lot. You could go, we could talk about this for hours. There is a lot.
Yeah.
So, but if they disappeared that day and the search started 2 weeks later, I think. Yeah, about 2 weeks or 10 days or so later.
Yeah.
Then there would still be flesh on them. I don't want to get too graphic,
But they're exposed to the elements. Decomp has set in. There is an odor already. So the dogs are trained to detect it. This is what they do.
I just find it hard to believe that they would.
That was the most
walk over that and not be there.
That was the most baffling thing to me about the whole case. Yeah, that was the most baffling thing to me, because this is the thing, because I've read and watched extensive shows on this, because it's here in Oklahoma and it involved a child and a large sum of money that was still left. For them to be, they searched a 5-mile radius from the truck. They were found within 3 miles of the truck. They weren't there when they searched. They were gone. Somebody took them and then put them back in that spot.
Well, it's kind of odd too that one of the cadaver dogs traced to a water tower in that area.
Yeah.
So they
drained it.
To me, at some point they had to have been there.
Yes, they were there.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have led them to that area. The dog wouldn't have led them to that area. They did drain the water tower. There was nothing in there. They didn't find anything of the Jamisons in there. No clothing, no nothing. So that to me is odd. I do feel like someone moved them.
Yes.
Like, honestly, I do feel like they might have been in one place and moved them to another place or something.
And this was an area that was heavily hunted. So there were going to be hunters in the area. So a gunshot wouldn't have startled anybody.
Right.
So you have to keep that in mind too, that even if there were people around, it would have been a normal sound for them in that area. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the next theory. The next theory is that it was a murder-suicide. And it could have been Bobby was the murderer and then killed himself. Could have been Sherilyn that was the murderer and then killed herself.
Right.
There was, in the truck, there was an 11-page, what they called a hate letter from Sherilyn to Bobby. 11 pages of just her ranting, saying that he was a hermit, that he didn't love his daughter, all that stuff. Just her pouring out her frustrations on this page. Now, her friend, Sherilyn's friend Nikki, explained that this was her normal way of venting her frustrations. Like, she would write it out, she would put it on paper, and then she would move on. And Nikki says that Sherilyn loved Bobby very much, and that there was not, the murder-suicide thing just doesn't hold water for her, because this was just Sherilyn's normal way of getting her frustrations out.
And is also something that is, I actually didn't know about that, but that is
that is a form of therapy.
It's a form of therapy, and therapists will suggest that you write it out
to get
it out of yourself, and then you get that frustration out. So I can understand her, but that's really interesting, because I did not know that. I didn't know there was a letter found.
Yeah. It was an 11-page letter. It was a lot.
I could have 11 pages to draw.
She was very frustrated. Like, honestly, she was very frustrated.
I think honestly, if you look at it from they've been married for a long time. They've been together for a long time. I think they actually had other children.
They've been together.
Was their youngest.
No, she had an older son.
Okay.
from a previous relationship, but it wasn't from
theirs.
being with Bobby.
So you, when
I
you
believe,
somebody,
I think Madison was their only child together.
Okay.
I don't know that Bobby had other children.
I don't think he did either.
I know she had an older son.
Or another child. But
I know she had an older son, but Madison was their only one together. So.
And I can see that as a healthier way of, especially when you have a young child who lives in a home.
Instead of yelling and screaming at somebody.
Yeah. And there have been times where me and my husband have been together for 30 years. There have been times where I could probably write a book.
Right.
Just because there are times when I wake up in the morning and he's breathing and it pisses me off.
And honestly,
just,
and honestly, it doesn't say like this was a very eloquent letter. I mean, it could have been her repeating the same crap
over and over again for 11 pages.
I mean, honestly, if we're getting right down to brass tacks on it, it could have been the same thing, just written over and over and over.
And this is just how she deals with it. This was her therapy. So
it didn't say it was a well thought out written letter. Right. It just said it was a hate letter.
Yeah.
So, but
and I'm sure she was frustrated.
Yeah.
When you live with someone with chronic pain, and you can attest to this,
yeah,
we have ups and downs, and it's really hard to gauge sometimes how much pain somebody is in. And when you're in pain, you do snap, and you're snippy with people.
And let's not forget she was bipolar.
Exactly.
So she had this probably just been
way ups and way downs. So
she was bipolar.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. The next theory is that they got out there and got lost looking for the piece of land they were going out there to look at, and that they ended up succumbing to the elements. But the days and nights surrounding their disappearance were not of the nature that would have cost someone their life. I mean, the weather was fine. There was no rain. There was no freezing temperatures. There was no snow or precipitation. There was nothing. It was chilly. I mean, they probably could have used a jacket, but they could have survived that. There's no way. There's no the weather just. I mean, if you look at the Farmer's Almanac around that area, there's just no the elements. That doesn't hold up at all. So
that's awesome. Gosh, to me, this is so sad. Because I can't imagine being a parent with your child in a situation like that, and knowing you're lost and you cannot find your way out, and there's nothing. You have nothing. You were just coming to look at something, and you got lost, and nobody knows you're there.
Right, and they didn't take their jackets or anything. Like their jackets and stuff were in the truck. So yeah,
so they probably just got out to scout the area, and that it's. Really,
I mean, their truck was parked like in the middle of the road,
right
there. And when I say road, I'm talking about it's like a dirt kind of gravel type road. It's like Bob's Road from the Twister. So so it wasn't like a main thoroughfare. It was just an off road that they were on to go look at this piece of property. And succumbing to the elements just doesn't. The time surrounding when they disappeared does not promote that.
Into that. So
okay, so this is one I know my sister's going to really get into. So the next theory is that demons played a part in their disappearance.
Yes.
So let's really dive into this one. Sherilyn believed that there was a spirit family living in their home, and that Madison around this time had started playing with an imaginary friend named Emily. Sherilyn believed that Emily was actually an evil spirit. Bobby actually spoke to his pastor, Gary Brandon, regarding demons on his roof. He told him he sometimes would see demons on their roof, and he wanted to know if there were special bullets and a devil's Bible that would help him get rid of the demons. So this supports the theory that the move to somewhere else, the reason they were looking for land, was spur of the moment, because Sherilyn's son from a previous relationship had no knowledge of them moving. So if they were trying to get away from the evil oppression they really thought they were under, if they really believed they were under like an evil oppression, they were under attack in spiritual warfare, all that good stuff, well, all that bad stuff, them getting out of there would make sense if they were in a hurry to do this, because their family didn't. I don't think their family knew they were going to buy land or anything like that.
Nothing about this at all.
There was a shipping container on their property.
Yes. But they thought the family.
But they could have thought that was for storage.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Yeah.
And I will just, while we're talking about that, just kind of a side note. Like I said, there's tentacles for this story. On a side note, Sherilyn had spray painted on the shipping container. There was a lot of, talk about her being a witch and, stuff like that. There was a witch's Bible in the house. So there was a lot of talk about that. She had spray painted because 1 or 2 or 3 of her cats had been killed, and she believed that the cats had been killed by a neighbor or someone in the area because they didn't like her. So she had spray painted something on her shipping container that said witches don't like when their black cats are killed or something like that. So she had spray painted that. Well, in some obscure research that I was doing, there was some mention of there being spray paint on the truck when it was found. Yeah. And
I've heard that.
Or at some point, maybe not when it was found, but at some point, because the truck was, I don't believe they moved the truck. I think it was still out there.
It was still out there.
Sorry, I got something in my throat. There was some mention of there being some spray paint that actually matched the what was painted and how it looked. Actually matched what was on their shipping container, which is known to have been done by Sherilyn. So that was odd to them. So what are your thoughts on the demon thing? You're kind of the resident expert on that stuff. So.
I am coming at this as a person. I want to tell you, this is the thing. I'm on medication for a depressive disorder and anxiety. Nowhere near bipolar.
Right. Well, that's the thing.
I have a family member who is bipolar. When medication is not taken, I do believe that person has had episodes where they have seen things that aren't there, that it causes that. I'm not saying that happens to everybody. I'm just saying in my situation, I've seen, so there is a possibility that if they weren't taking their medication or Bobby was taking too much medication, some side effects of some medications are you see things.
There's a whole theory on that too.
Exactly.
On the fact that they had monitors in they had like double monitors in their bedroom or something. Yes. And there has been research that could cause them to see other things like in their periphery or like that.
How many times have you been sitting in your living room and the air kicks on? You don't realize the air is on because you're not seeing, and something moves and you think, oh dear God, there's something in my house.
Like you're focused on something else.
You're focused on something else. So
I have multiple times, like honestly, sitting on my couch. If you're sitting on my couch, there's an opening from my living room through my hallway into the entryway, and you can see the hallway. And I have multiple times been sitting on my couch. And at one time, I had a picture of my deceased dad right there in the hallway. I've since moved it, but it was right there in the hallway. I have in my periphery, while sitting on my couch watching a show, seen my dad walk down my hall. Yeah. Now, my dad was never in this house. No, never. He didn't pass in this house. No. We bought this house
way after.
Like 2 years after he passed. He didn't even know about this house. This house wasn't even built when my dad passed. Right. So for me to see him in the hallway was way off. But, I could have sworn I saw him. Yes. The skeptic in me would say, you saw his picture, the light played a trick, whatever. There are a million ways that you could explain it away. But so I get that, being having that issue,
now
or seeing things like that.
We're also talking about an area of Oklahoma that was heavily populated by Native Americans. Native Americans have a lot of lore around certain animals in the area. One of them being the crow. There have been theories that what he was seeing were not demons, but they were crows, and in his medicated state, that it distorted it. And now crows have been known to be attached with what people consider the underworld. Crows are extremely smart animals. Crows remember people. If you do something to hurt one of them, crows do remember that. They have a pattern of remembering. There was an incident a couple years back where this little girl kept feeding them bread. They would bring things to her. They would bring buttons and just stuff that they found, and they would leave them in her yard because she fed these crows. Right. So and that was on news. That was on the news. So it was a story. So I do believe in. I have a very strong belief, just because of the past history that I've had and things that I've seen, in demons. I do believe that there is a possibility. Yes, they could have been seeing demons, but these could have been a manifestation of the demons they had inside them as well. Right. And this was in their state of confusion, being bipolar, being chronic illness, being in pain, things like that. Maybe that's what they saw. Doesn't rule out the fact that there could have been something in the house. Right.
They were actually my understanding is that they were actually very spiritual people.
Yes, very spiritual. All that stuff. Very spiritual. Almost.
The fact that Sherilyn had a witch's Bible was something that her and her friend, they bought them together as a joke, and they set them on their house because there was speculation in the area around where they lived that she was a witch and blah, 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 you know. So, and, you know, Seinfeld, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So that was not what her true belief was.
It's not uncommon for people that are very religious to learn about other religions, because we were always told growing up, you cannot argue your religion with somebody if you know nothing about theirs.
Right.
So I have books in my house that were on different religions. I had books on Wicca, on witchcraft, on devil worship, on things like that. But it was from my knowledge, Mormonism, from my knowledge. So because I can't argue with a Mormon about religion if I have no clue what their religion is. You can't argue with me about my religion if you have no clue what my religion is, because you don't understand it. So that could have been, and it could have been the fact that she got tired of people killing her animals and tired of people calling her a witch. So she was just like, haha, I'm a witch. This is what you think I am. This is what I am. I would have done that. Yeah. Honestly, you keep calling me a witch, well, hocus pocus, bitch. So that's the whole thing. So.
All right. So the next theory is that they were scammers and that someone off them because of that, because they were scamming lots of people. Now, let's get into that a little bit. They, let's go back. They lived in a $300,000 lakefront home with the latest amenities and appliances. They own 2 timeshares in Mexico, and it just says several others across the U.S. So it doesn't say exactly how many they owned. They had the latest. They had newer vehicles. I don't know if they were the latest vehicles. They had newer vehicles. They were both on disability. Yeah. Now, on disability, you can work.
Yes.
But there is a level that you will get cut off from disability if you're working. So, excuse the little tiny bark in the background if you heard that.
We have a peanut gallery.
We have 2 miniature dachshunds in the room with us. So, they were on disability, and if they were on disability full time, they weren't working. So there was no supplemental income that we know of coming in. There was no on the table supplemental income. Let's just say that. There might have been some under the table stuff going on. We don't know. That's all speculation. But they had several lawsuits pending. He was still, I believe, still in litigation for the car accident he was in back in 2003. Yes. This is 2009. So,
I believe he was in the middle of a litigation with his father over wages.
Yes.
So,
Yes,
I think he was in the middle of one too.
He had some litigation with his parents. And I don't know if it was his dad and his mom. Is his dad and I believe his mom, although they were divorced, she is named in the lawsuit as well. Did some research on that, over wages and property and stuff like that. Yeah. There was also a pending litigation against a Eufaula school, the Madison school. Yes. She was hit by a swing and lost her 2 front teeth, and they had pulled her out of the school, saying that they were going to just homeschool her, but they were also suing the school because of what had happened to her. So there's some speculation that they were just kind of scamming left and right, and that's how they got their money. I don't know that that's the case. I mean, legitimately, if she were hit by a swing, lost her 2 front teeth because of negligence on the school's part, I would sue too.
And they told to hear that.
Yeah. Exactly. I would be upset too. Absolutely. If they weren't watching what was going on. Yep. Now, I've had personal story here. I've had an incident where my youngest was at daycare. He fell down a step and busted his eye open, above his eye open. He had to go to his doctor, and they were able to glue it shut instead of stitching it shut. Now, the daycare, I worked at a local hospital, and the daycare was attached to the hospital. Now, they actually offered to take care of the financial part of that accident. So I didn't take them up on that. It wasn't necessary. It was legitimately an accident. He was, what, 2 or 3, maybe, and he stumbled and fell and hit a step. It wasn't that big of a deal. But if there was negligence going on, trust me, I would have been on somebody, because that is my child. I'm fiercely protective, as any parent, I believe, is and should be. So if there was negligence on the school's part where they weren't watching and someone hit her in the face with a swing or what have you, when I send my kid to school, I expect that school to protect my child. Yeah. If they're not watching my child and something happens to my child, I would be angry. And I would, if there was a lot of medical expense, if they didn't have insurance and they had medical bills mounting up for her because she lost her 2 front teeth, dental bills, whatever. Right. I probably would have done the same thing. So that litigation is not necessarily a scam, a ploy to get money. She was legitimately, I believe, injured at school. Yeah. So, and let's talk about Bobby. His car accident, he was legitimately hurt in this car accident. That wasn't a scam. He was legitimately hurt. It was a legitimate injury. If you get on disability simply because you have back pain, that's a legitimate injury, because they look at all that stuff. They really dive into that stuff. Because a lot of times you could fake something. You could fake back pain, or you could fake this or that, whatever. So I don't believe their litigation that was pending were scams. So I don't know that they were actually scammers. I don't know if this one holds water either for me, to be honest.
This one, and I'm going to have to agree with you on that point, because this one doesn't hold water for me. One, because I worked for a man that if you did not know this man personally, you would think he was homeless. Mm-hmm. He was a millionaire. When I first met him, I literally thought he was somebody off the street. He came in unannounced. We didn't know he was there. He was coming. He wanted to talk to the manager. At the time, I was the assistant manager. And when I said, yeah, let me go get her. When I went in to tell her there was a man here, when she looked out the door to see, she's like, that's our boss. That's the guy that owns her. He literally looked like a bum off the street. Yeah. So to say that they had this $300,000 home and all this, and nobody knew they were, okay, that doesn't fly with me, because they could have possibly had all the money in the world and they just weren't flaunting people. Sure. So you didn't know that. The other thing that bothers me about the scammer thing is there was $32,000 left in their vehicle when they disappeared.
Yeah, who were the scammers?
If you were being scammed, wouldn't you take the money?
I would have.
I would have.
I mean, it was
I
cash.
hit mine back.
It was
It's
cash. It wasn't.
untraceable.
It wasn't a cashier's check. It wasn't a check. It wasn't credit
Exactly.
cards. It was cash.
It
There
was
was cash
cash
in
money.
the truck.
Untraceable cash money. I would have taken the money.
Yeah,
I'm just being
I
perfectly honest, people.
I definitely would have.
If you're going to off somebody and you're going to get, they're going to be disappeared and supposedly they screwed you out of money, you're going to get yours. You've already killed people. What does it matter if you stole the money that they've taken? What's one more crime? It's not going to get you more time. It's just going to get you, you're still going to be in trouble for the same thing. Like the Bible says, no sin is greater than the other. So, that's my theory with that. I don't believe the whole scammer thing. So.
Yeah, I'm not down with that one either. So.
No.
Okay, so the last theory I have is that it was an alien abduction. And I know that is weird, but people actually believe this.
They do.
I kind of believe it. And let me explain why. Because an alien abduction would explain how the remains were found 3 miles from their truck, but 4 years later.
Yes.
When the area was searched at the time of their vanishing, how were they not found?
Because they searched 5 miles out.
It would also account for their being 3 miles away from the truck. I mean, think about it. Bobby is a man with severe back pain.
Yes.
His family and friends said there's no way he walked 3 miles.
Yeah.
They had a small child with them. Madison was only 6 years old. She wasn't
Everybody knows
big. She was
don't
little.
walk that far.
So she would have been tired. That's a long way.
It is a long
when
way.
you think about it. That's
1 mile away is a long way.
3 miles.
The terrain.
So that would explain all of that to me. And I'm not a big Area 51, aliens, all that stuff. I am not a big believer in that, but that honestly would explain that. So somebody was holding them or holding their remains
somewhere
or something because they were not there when they searched 4 years earlier. When they initially disappeared in 2009, they were not found.
Right.
There was no trace of them. Their clothing wasn't found. The only thing that was found was their truck.
Yes.
Their truck and what was in their truck. So where were they? If they weren't there 4 years ago when they initially started searching, where were they? So this would explain a lot of things because there was no way to determine how they died.
Yeah.
There was a hole in the back of, and I don't, if you're squeamish, turn away for a second. There was a hole in the back of Bobby's head.
Yes.
In his skull. The hunters that found it believe it was a bullet hole. Yeah. Sherilyn did have a registered .22 gun that was never found, actually. It was found in the house. They were known to have carried it in the truck. I believe if they had $32,000, I would have my weapon with me as well.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, I just wouldn't have gone without it. With that kind of money, I wouldn't have taken the chance. And
they were paranoid, not stupid.
They were both actually very paranoid. And you could call that a personality trait. You could call that
I mean, it could be what you want. It could be a drug use state. It could be anything. Yeah. There are medications and possibly medications they were on that
could cause that. Yeah.
So
so the 22 wasn't found. So I mean that is weird. Obviously
but there were not bullet holes found in the other two.
Right. There was none. They could not find any cause of death.
No unexplained.
Like the hyoid bone wasn't broken. Right. They didn't find the hyoid bone, I guess. I don't know. So I guess it could have been broken, but what's that called? Is it the hyoid bone?
I think so.
I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
Your neck, when somebody breaks your neck, it's the bone that
that small bone that will snap
that kills you.
Yeah.
But there was no forceful strangulation. There was no they could not determine. But there are some things that even with skeletal remains, they can rule out. They did not find any bullet holes or what to appear to be bullet holes in Madison or Sherilyn. So
and there is no confirmation that this is a bullet hole in Bobby's skull.
Right.
There is a hole in Bobby's skull. There is on the remains. There were evidence of animal interference,
which
So,
Yeah.
which if they were out there for any
Exactly,
time,
yeah.
actually, any time at all, there would have been that. I mean, you're talking about they were out in the wilderness,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Yes, we have wilderness in Oklahoma. They were not out in a heavy populated area.
No.
It was not
And
populated.
this was not flat terrain.
You know.
This was very. It would have been
It was
very
very
difficult.
conducive for
Exactly.
animals.
So now we were talking about this earlier, and I know I'm a goofball for thinking, but this is the thing. I don't necessarily believe in alien abduction because I've never witnessed anything. I have seen movies like The Fourth Kind and things like that scare the hell out of me. I don't want to be that girl that says, I don't believe in aliens, and then be like, Miss Loggins, we're here to pick you up and take you to the mothership. So, I don't want that to happen to me.
Okay,
So,
creepiness alert, legit, a
hearse.
A hearse just past my house.
Yeah, she lives down the street. The lady that owns
There's
lives
one
down the
that
street.
lives down the street that owns a hearse. They dress up as the Ghostbuster car for Halloween, blah, blah, blah.
So,
and it legit just drove past my house.
We both just
which
looked
is
outside and saw it. But
So,
yeah, I don't. This is my thing. I know that legitimately people have things that have happened to them, things that have been implanted in them that scientists cannot explain. That I've seen stories where people have had like small pieces of metal implanted in like their thumbs, and when they extract the metal, they cannot identify the metal because it's nothing that we have here. So that being said, like I said, I don't want to be
encounters of the third kind.
Exactly.
You know?
I don't want to be that girl.
That they start whispering like
exactly. They want to make an example out of. Oh, you don't believe in us? Let's go. So yeah, I mean it's.
Yeah. So if we're going down that rabbit hole, and I keep saying that, but if we're going down that rabbit hole,
right,
that makes sense.
It does.
I mean, honestly, if you look at it, just take logic out of the equation and just look at the facts. They disappeared without a trace.
Yes.
There was no evidence of foul play in their vehicle. They left their dog. They wouldn't have done that. No. They wouldn't have just willingly left their dog.
There was money left.
There was money left. There were cell phones left. There was a GPS. So if they got lost, I mean, why would they get lost?
Why would they not take their GPS?
They would have taken it.
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
They when they went to look for them, I have to stress this, okay? They looked 5 miles out. They were found 3 miles in.
Right.
So they would have found their bodies.
I can't imagine why 16 teams of cadaver dogs
walked over.
I've heard 12. I've heard 16. So at minimum, 12 teams of cadaver dogs would miss the remains of 3 people.
Right, and the cadaver dogs.
No way.
The OSBI doesn't use just Bob's cadaver dogs.
We're not talking search and rescue dogs.
No,
we're
these are
specifically
trained dogs
to find deceased individuals.
Exactly. And at that point, they would have been deceased.
This was about 2 weeks later.
I also heard that they did bring in some search and rescue just in case they were still alive. And the search and rescue dogs didn't find anything either. And they're trained to find people in like
they were given
explosions and stuff. So
they were given their scent.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a strange
situation because you had 3 people who, for all intents and purposes, were isolated from their families.
Yeah.
Nobody knew.
They were very they stayed to themselves a lot.
Even in 2009, it was 2009, correct? Even in 2009, very hard to get lost in.
Especially when you have a GPS.
Yeah. So they literally left everything in their car. I still have to, and I can't, and y'all are probably going to be like, oh my God, shut up. I cannot stress the fact that there was $32,000 in cash left in their car.
Along with their
dog and their other belongings. Anybody who is there to commit foul play, you're going to search the car and anything in there you're going to take.
Whatever you can take for
that could have been a whole setup for getting a whole new identity, which is also another theory.
Yeah, there's theory that they just wanted to get off
the grid. So,
but I can't imagine that she would want to get off the grid and her son not know it. He wasn't grown.
Right.
Let's just put that out there.
And she still in contact with him.
He was not a grown child. Yeah. This was not an adult child. This was a child still.
So yeah,
I mean, I don't want to speculate on how old he was because I really actually don't know.
Right.
But I know he was not an adult.
And everybody has
And I don't believe he was a
said,
teenager either.
everybody's always said that Sherilyn and Bobby would have done nothing to put Madison in harm's way. That
Right.
they would have protected her with
That they were
everything,
good
and that they were
parents.
very good parents. Which, if they were doing drugs and people were concerned about them, that would have been the first thing that would have been
Sure.
handled.
Yeah.
Was the fact that the child would not have been with them.
Right.
So that's,
And even like the sheriff's department actually speculated they were on meth. So
Which-
I don't know where they.
I don't agree with that.
I honestly don't see any evidence of the meth.
No.
I don't see it. They didn't find anything in their home. So I don't, the meth and the drug dealing, the drug use and the drug dealing, I don't see that. I don't understand how they can.
Yeah, the whole thing with the sheriff's department speculating their own methods, and I'm going to tell you this, and this is just my theory, okay? I have been around people that have been drug users. I have known people that have been meth users. They did not fit that theory. More or less, if they fit any theory, they would have fit theory of smoking pot.
I mean, honestly, the meth users in my experience, what I've seen on TV and all that stuff,
Yeah.
have a certain look to them. Their skin is very not good. Their teeth,
sores, their teeth are bad.
You
They
know,
didn't
all
look
that stuff.
like
They did not look like that.
No, they didn't fit the mold at all.
I mean, although he was lean and thin, it doesn't mean he was using meth just because he was skinny. You know, he could have been just skinny. You know,
and honestly,
I don't know what that's like, but he could have just been skinny.
This is the thing. There are some people that have chronic pain that they hurt so much they can't eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
That eating even is a painful situation.
I wish I had that issue.
Me too.
That's not my issue with chronic pain. So
I wish I would have the part that makes me skinny, but not the whole pain. But I mean, that's the thing, guys. You know, we always stress, check things out. If you have a question about something, or if we've said something wrong, I mean, let us know, because we want to know the truth.
Don't hesitate to correct us.
We want the truth out there.
We're just looking at, I mean, I did some research. I checked the court documents and looked at the litigation that was pending on and all that stuff. And I did not find the litigation that was pending against the school.
Right.
Regarding Madison. I did not find anything on that, but I did see the litigation for the car accident, litigation with his parents. So this is just stuff we're gleaning off the internet. I did not speak to any family members. I did not speak to friends. I looked at newspaper reports. I watched several YouTube videos, all that stuff. So this is information that was gleaned just from what is out there.
Yeah.
So if your family and we said something wrong or we said something offensive, we apologize. We're not trying to hurt anybody. No. We're just trying to tell the story.
Yeah.
We're just trying to make more people aware of the stuff that's going on. So this is an extremely cold case. Their bodies were found in 2013. They were actually identified in 2014, went missing in 2009. So this is, we're talking about 2021 here. Yeah. There is no new evidence. There are no new leads as to what happened.
And it needs to be kept in the forefront, because this family needs answers, and they need to know what happened. And
they deserve answers.
They deserve answers. And you guys, just honestly, if hug your kids extra tonight. Right. And I mean, because in a split second, your life can entirely change. Do I think that the Jamison family were doing drugs? Absolutely not. I think that they were in a situation possibly where they were having trouble with neighbors, and they had some other things going on, and they just wanted to get away from everything. They had issues with family members, and they wanted to get off grid. And I can surely understand that, to just from my personal experience. I can understand that exactly, 100%. But the thing is this family went missing. This family was murdered. Something happened to them, and nobody knows what. And that's, as a family, every night it would be on me that we didn't know, God, what happened to them. So, just do your research. If you have questions for us, let us know. If you are family and you want to correct some things, by all means, let us know, because we will definitely help you get that information out there, because it deserves to be heard every day. So, you guys just, keep in mind that like Jenny said, we do research off of what we want. We want to bring it to the forefront because we want people to talk about these things, and we want to keep it in circulation.
Sure.
So because even though it's a cold case, it's not to their family.
And honestly, we're just this obscure little podcast that's just
Exactly.
getting started. But I mean, who knows who could hear
Yes.
anything?
Yes.
So, it's not. We're going to talk about these things. This is what we want to talk about. This is our podcast.
Yeah.
We want to share this information, and we want to get it out there. And, if it helps, bring some closure, then that's amazing. And we've done a good job. So, that's all I'm going to say. So that's all we have on this story today. On a little side note, we're going to be making some changes.
Yeah.
We will be changing the name of our podcast, so stay tuned for that. And
tell the story behind that when we make the changes.
We will definitely take the story change. We will definitely let you know the story behind that. It's a little more fitting to us. We're not necessarily defined by what has happened to us,
right.
But this is something that I'll just get into it a little bit now. We are going to be changing our podcast to the PB and J podcast. J is not for Jenny, it's for Jelly. We have always called each other peanut butter and jelly. Yeah. Shell is peanut butter, I'm jelly. So that's a little more fitting to us. It kind of fits our mood and our personalities. So we're going to be making that change shortly. So I hope you'll stick around with us and stay with us. And, check us out over on YouTube. It's the same thing, but right now it's just videos of different pictures that normally are going to fit with whatever the story is. So stay tuned with us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share.
Yes.
Hit us up. There are several ways you can donate if you choose to do so. You're not obligated to. But if someone decides they want to, that would go towards helping us get set up, helping us maybe take some road trips to some areas of like some paranormal stuff, maybe do a little bit of ghost hunting. Who knows?
I'd love to.
Anyway, so that is where we're going.
Yes.
We hope you guys stay tuned. Thank you for joining us today. And we hope you have an awesome week, and hug your babies.
Yes.
Kiss your family. Don't ever miss the chance to tell someone you love them, because you never know when will be the last time you see them.
Right.
So we love you guys.
Yes.
Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. Bye, guys. Well, that's all we have for today.
Drop by our Facebook page and let us know what keeps you up at night. Bye, y'all.